Hello, Tom. Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for coming over on our podcast. Let's talk about data. It's been long time that this session was pending, and thanks for
Yes.
taking out time. Tell us about yourself.
So first of all, thank you, Mustafa, for inviting me. It's yes, it's been a long journey to get to this point. So, who am I? My name is Tom Wilson. I have had my entire career in Canada. Now I've relocated to the Middle East to look for my next adventure. So, a little bit about me in terms of education. I started programming when I was like 12 years old on a very, very old computer, and never thought of doing anything technical as a career. So my education, most of it has been in accounting. So I did my bachelor business administration. I did my MBA actually in marketing, and then after that, with the timing, I ended up getting into computers and starting back late 90s when Y2K came around. And that's then a few years afterwards, I learned about something called data warehousing and business intelligence. And I was absolutely hooked because it was that mix of the technical plus the business. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was, it, that's sort of where I came from. And for the last 25 years. I've been in the over 25 years now. I've been in the industry, and the last 20 of it in a very, very technical way. And the last 10 has also included some data leadership positions as well. So that explains where I am, where I come from, and yes,
Nice. Pleasure to meet people from a data background. And you mentioned in last 20 years you were in data, right? When you jump into
yes.
data warehousing, I'm sure you end up meeting Bill and Mon as well. And is it?
Only through your video, but when I saw that you got him, I was like, wow, this is like superstar material. And I'm like, how did you manage to get him? And then I realized, well, okay, he wants to talk to you as well. And I'm like, this is awesome. So no, yeah, yeah. And it's like, it's like being a fan of Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and then actually going to a real life Disney World. And,
Yeah.
yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. In
Absolutely.
his podcast, I told him that it was kind of a dreams come true from me as well. I
Yeah.
told him a story that 20 years back, you heard about that, right? I was
I
talking to
did,
my
yes,
kid.
yes, no, but tell it anyway for people that didn't hear it, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or that didn't
Yeah,
see.
so that was a pleasure and an honor for me to host Bill himself and
Hmm.
and learn from him. This guy has a wisdom of data, right? He talks
Yeah.
like anything, right? And then I got to meet so many inventors, so many founders, and
Hmm.
I would say not a lot of people has come from data background, but
Hmm.
as data has become such a key thing in current era due to AI, and we all know AI is nothing without data. And
Right.
a lot of people are saying that agentic AI will come and clean everything by itself. I'm against that. I don't agree
Hmm.
on that one. You have to understand the principles, right? If you do not know what are the principles of driving a car, you end up
Hmm.
buying whichever kind of a car, you will not be able to drive on a road, right? There are some principles you need to know. So it's
Hmm.
good to hear that you have data background as well. And I think this session will be a super good session. And just for our audience, our session topic is data professionals hesitate to get into AI. Yeah. So, floor is all yours, Tom. Tell us about this
Hey.
topic, why you selected this topic, and what you
Yeah,
have.
that's a very, very good segue. So let me just
Are you going to share?
edit
I
this slide.
have to give
Yeah, I'm going to share.
permission.
Yep. I'm just
Okay. Yeah. I've given you the permission. Yeah.
yep. Perfect. Thank you. Another gotcha when it comes to this. Oh, okay. Share. There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it?
So one one thing that I didn't mention in my introduction is that I started my journey with AI just last year, and the real reason why I started it is that I had heard so much, to be honest, so much stuff that seemed unbelievable when it came to AI, and stuff that just seemed bizarre, that I wanted to be able to intelligently talk about what was AI and what was not. So
Mm,
that's why I did my certified AI transformation leader uh,
mm,
course last year. So that talks about that's the who am I part. So
mm,
why am I choose this topic? Well, namely, why did data professionals shy away from AI? As I said, I completed it in 2024. When I talked to people about getting it, there were two very distinct groups, clusters of people. One that thought it was overwhelmingly a positive thing, and there was a group that was overwhelmingly negative towards the whole thing. And the group that was overwhelmingly negative towards uh, AI as a topic were my coworkers, a lot of experienced data professionals, and these are not slow people. They're very intelligent. So I wanted to understand because I knew where they came from, and I wanted to dig into that. Say, why is that? Because as you said, there's no AI without data. And the idea that somehow you can magically wave a wand and have replace what we do as data professionals with some kind of algorithm seems very difficult to believe. So I want to dig into that for the reasons. So I want to make it my mission to help other people who are data professionals understand the resistance, help them transition into AI to whatever degree possible because they are absolutely needed in the world of AI. So if we look at, I'm just going to say goodbye to this. I know what we look like. Um, so why do data professionals shy away from AI? You know, simply put, there's three groups. One is we're tired of the hype. Two, there's a lack of trust in AI in the process and the output. And then there's a whole bunch of other things that I put into other issues. So if we look at the tired of hype part, I'll call it X, not Twitter, but whatever X, a variable, is dead. Two, hype cycles in general. Three, AI hype backlash. And so looking at X is dead. So example, SQL is dead. You hear that on Twitter all the time. Uh, and the problem is that it's not based on any real fact. So it's not as though that somebody's come along and said, okay, everyone who's using SQL, stop using it. It's not dead or not used. Another important thing is that popularity is not the same as usage. So we say, oh, you hear people who have no knowledge of what SQL is and never used it saying SQL's dead. They also have to understand that popularity is not the same as usage. So there are people that say SQL's dead. What about COBOL? Is COBOL dead? Now, Mustafa, what's your thought on that? Is COBOL dead?
no.
Correct. COBOL, which is a language that was created in 1959, and I don't think it's really taught in many places around the world, and it's definitely not something that appears on a lot of job descriptions. But COBOL is used, you know, still a lot within North America, Europe, and Eastern Asia. In fact, 92 of the top 100 banks in the US are still using COBOL. And as a result of I hesitate to use the word stupidity, but as a result of this kind of being constantly bombarded with, whatever is dead, is that professionals are much likely to believe in things that are true game changers due to the noise. And the problem here is that AI is, it's going through a hype cycle, but it still it is a different type of hype cycle than we've seen before. And it's the speed of transition that makes me think that data professionals need to start working on it now rather than later. But more on things, we've lived through so many different hype cycles that have gone on, and in each case, uh, your you we've gone through and talked about everything's going to be the next silver bullet. But the reality is that most data professionals wait until hype dies down before they really start engaging, unless they have a reason, either through a job or through a project that they're dealing with, or for whatever reason, um, personal reason or professional, that they're joining the hype bandwagon on these things. So again, the next part on the AI hype itself. So uh, as a data professional, I know that we're judged based on our outputs. We go in front of the business and say, here's what we built for you. And inputs and processing are also important. But if your outputs don't meet the requirements, it doesn't matter how great your data or processing is. And okay, with that in mind, you look at a lot of hype that you will see it only looks at the process, and people go, wow, what an amazing thing you've done there. Well, at the same time, it's ignoring the suitability of the output for a given task. Now, here's an example which I think perfectly illustrates this. This is an actual YouTube video. So if you look at the thumbnail on the left here, you see some guy, he's the host of this, AI Pathways. He has AI agent day trader. So looking at his phone, it looks like, wow, he's made probably over $1 million on investing. And the title of the video, I built a profitable AI agent day trader. Here's how. So I watched the video, and watching the video told me that, yeah, this is a complete a complete mess, because at the end of the day, if he's built a profitable AI day trader, what is the output to that? One is that it's a piece of software, but not only just any piece of software, it is a soft piece of software that has been proven to make money. But if you watch the video, you realize you've been sort of it's been clickbaited. So he's never said. So people ask in the comments, well, where's your proof that it's profitable? And he answered back a couple to say, oh, it's too early to tell. I'll answer back later. This video was out 2 months ago. He's provided nothing to do that. So basically, it's AI hype. And I think that the comment that best illustrates this is someone saying, look, I've been a programmer since 2008, and I can say with 100% certainty, you can't build a real autonomous AI trading bot without serious coding. And this is not knocking the tool, but it's saying it's great for connecting APIs, but it's not even close to handling the complexity of a true AI trading bot. If someone claims N8N can bypass all the coding, they either don't understand what's involved or they're just hyping it up. And so that was very much my idea. And the bottom line here, with for a lot of data professionals, I think, is that AI hype, or hype in general, that is connected with what we do, it devalues the work of professionals to make it look like those who are actually doing it correctly are just wasting their time, because the path to success, quote unquote, is much faster just by using AI.
Yeah, true. I can quickly throw an example over here. As
Please
I
do.
was just telling you that I am creating a deck for a training on data, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is I started using AI to create a lot of things. You are absolutely right. I end up wasting so much of time. Then I say, damn this AI. I started creating myself. It was
Mm-hmm.
much faster. So previously I was giving 60%, I would say, investment time on AI and 40% on myself, my manual work. I reverted it
Mm-hmm.
back. I said I will do 60 to 80% myself. I use AI 20 to 30%. Believe me, my working timeline reduced like anything. I was so proficient. Quality become high, you know, uh,
Mm-hmm.
redo activities become lesser and lesser and lesser. So you are absolutely right that we should not think that AI will do everything for us.
Right. And there are going to be, um, let's say that the AI at any cost people out there listening to this and saying, well, maybe it didn't work for you, but I built a slide deck in 5 minutes with one prompt that did the same thing that you are doing. And
Not true.
the problem with that is that the quality of the output is vastly different. And you
Yeah.
and I look at the outputs and say, hey, yeah, I can create a slide deck that has this stuff, but it's absolute mess. If I get up there and present this to people who are my peers, they're all going to be, wait a second, that's not correct. That's not correct. You get called out on that stuff.
Yeah.
However, if your point is to look at the process and ignore the output, your AI hype people will say, look what I did. Congratulations. But we'll dig more into that later.
Yeah, repetition is a problem in AI. See, we
Mm-hmm.
all are professionals. We know that when you go into a corporate world, there are departments who are creating templates to use. You
Mm-hmm.
have to use the same color, you have to use the same width, same font
Mm-hmm.
size, font type,
Mm-hmm.
font, a lot of things you have to use, follow. AI cannot follow that. Or you have to invest so much of a time to keep asking or prompting AI to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I am absolutely with you on this.
Yeah. And actually, we're going to dig into that more in a later slide. So that's
Sure.
awesome. Awesome. So, yeah, lack of trust in AI itself, the process and the output. So, this is vibe coding is one
Mm,
area. The quality of the AI output, which is, I say, different than AI. It's vibe coding is the process. AI output is the output. And then I'm going to say talk about professionalism concerns, if we can call it that. So,
mm,
on Gen AI oversimplification, I'm going to move this there. Gen AI oversimplification and vibe coding. So Gen AI generates output based on prompts. And just as you were saying that in professional projects, we have detailed requirements that come from our business, or use this template or use this structure or whatever. And it's almost always specific to either an internal process or an organizational structure. And the implication here is that an LLM won't know what a given organization or a uh, given department may have as their requirements. So how can it generate something without knowing the requirements? And for Gen AI to be able to create something according to the business's specifications or requirements, you need to provide it with the detailed business requirements, which you have to do anyway, which you have to create anyway. Then you have to create the context on the company, the business unit, expected level of detail of the source data structures, expected outputs, etc. And the more complex the prompt, the higher the chance of mistakes. So I think you were alluding to this before, but if you look at situations where you try to do something and then, oh, it didn't work, and oh, now I need to change that prompt. And sometimes it seems to stray off doing worse than what you started with.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. As you have just paused it, I can again add an example. Same on
Mm-hmm.
my deck. What happened? I was creating something for last 2 weeks. Suddenly this morning, I asked something different from the LLM, which is
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT, and it detracked the format on which I was creating my training. It can you believe me? It took me 3 hours to bring it onto the same pattern that start generating content what we were doing for last 1 week. So
Mm-hmm.
it is a mess as of now. Do tell me if you are jumping out of this Gen AI because I want to share something more on Gen AI. This is the one slide on Gen AI, is it?
No, no, I think there's still more, but go ahead. If you want
Oh
to,
yeah.
we don't have to be linear here. It's all good.
Yeah. So I just wanted to give an example on Gen AI. We all know that Gen AI recently has crashed when this MIT report came out, like 90-95% projects are failed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm involved in many places, last 1.5 years, Gen AI just bombarded into the market and I crashed around 8 to 10 POCs in a
Yep.
year or two, saved millions of millions, and
Mm-hmm.
vendors. These were big vendors, I can tell you,
Yep.
multinational vendors. I can't name them right now, but
Mm-hmm.
all were saying that Gen AI can do it, and I was telling
Mm-hmm.
me, show me,
Yep.
and they could
Right.
not. And I keep telling them that every tool and technology come into the market, we should use it for the specific requirement, not for everything. And now suddenly after 1.5 years, this MIT report comes in, and I was just laughing around with my colleagues, and we were saying, see, we already told you business,
Yeah.
and that is what's happening right now. Now, next question comes, what's going to happen on agentic AI? Because if you don't learn our lessons from generative AI, agentic AI will be a bigger mess actually. Yeah, please go ahead. Thanks.
No, 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 no. This is why I said at the beginning, this is not a presentation where you
Yeah.
sit and listen because you've got with your other podcasts. I know that it's some of the best parts of the podcast isn't when the guest is talking, but
Yeah.
when you're sharing your part as well. So,
Yeah. Thanks for
so
that. Yeah.
no, you're welcome. I just know that it would be a lower quality output to have me just sit and talk forever and you go yes, 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 or you know,
Yeah. It's a
but
two-way traffic with me. Yeah.
no, but it should be this way. This is what a podcast is. I wanted to summarize, what can happen when you take the idea that the only thing is the process. So here is, I designed and created this program in only 2 months, and this is the cake that I got from it. And I vibe coded this program in only 2 hours. So in, it's about the. I mean, obviously, it's this is extreme example here, but I mean the point is there. Um, and so the other part about pushing this whole AI output quality. So if you look at projects within companies we work at, they're budgeted and paid for to bring a specific result. And the projects don't care about how you created it, only the usefulness of the output. And in the data world, I do a lot of financial reconciliation. So here's the source system that we've pulled stuff from. We've done all these complicated transformations to it. How close to, how accurate is it back to the source system? And output that is 95% accurate, which to a layman sounds like, yeah, it's great. You got 95%. That's A plus plus, isn't it? If it's only 95% accurate, it's 0% useful, regardless of how quickly it was created. And the reason why 95% is never good enough is that when you start digging into a large number, you will see that even though the overall average is 95%, there are big spots within that in the data where the data is much less than 95%. And that 95% is just an average. So no business person is going to use 95% accurate data to make decisions. And if we're using AI to create those outputs that they're using, then it has to be 100% or close enough to it with explainable differences. And just going back to the vibe coding, I put this wrong point here, but it's faster to manually code rather than fix, which is your experience as well. Um, so go ahead. Did you want to jump in, Mustafa, with
No,
anything?
that's perfectly. I think this session is going very much onto the same track which I think about, and I keep
Yeah.
telling people that uh, output is why is very important. Why, how, and what, right? The whole world is after what. I say, even if you
Yes.
spend a single penny of an organization, it should start what you're going to get out of it, right? So there is, I always say
Right.
in my 4x4 formula, I always say
Mm-hmm.
there has to be a questions, there has to be an
Mm-hmm.
answers, based on which there
Mm-hmm.
has to be a actions, and based on that there has to be a value. So if these for
Right.
every product, if you don't have question, answers, actions, and value upfront, if it is not
Yeah.
decided upfront, don't start it. Do not start it.
Yeah.
But people normally go into it. Let's do it. Let's explore it. Maybe this will end up generating something, and that something is one out of million. So
Yeah.
I always start. Tell me why. And just to add it here, right? Last time
Mm-hmm.
our sales folk used to have why. Businesses have why, and then there came how and what. I feel this all AI buzzword buzz things will
Mm-hmm.
cover what means, what technology means, what code means, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, AI might take over. Why? Yes, AI can come up with predefined use cases for banking, for telco. It can tell you what value it can generate. But I think the most valuable portion will come in how to do it.
Hmm.
I think that
Yeah.
how part will be taken over by senior folks who really
Hmm.
has walked the walk. I came up with this. I love
Yeah.
this phrase, walk the walk.
Hmm.
Like you have done
Yeah.
something in data for many years and you understand what basic, because once AI comes, everything will go under the hood. So until unless
Hmm.
you haven't gone through that hood in once in your lifetime or spend some time, you won't even know. There are so many things I just mentioned, right? I end up creating 32 data modeling techniques. You're not going to use
Hmm.
32 data modeling techniques. Once
Yeah.
AI comes, who knows, out of 32, 80% is automated. But automated
Hmm.
does not mean you can blindly trust. You need to have a
No.
check and balance. Some human in the loop has to be there. So I think this
Hmm.
how is where human in loop will come. And I keep talking to people that, hey, keep senior folks who have walked the walk of data. And again, if your data is as your slide is perfect, right? 95% accuracy, but you can't use
Hmm.
it. What's the
Right.
use of it? No
Correct.
use.
Well.
And decision is taken by C level, not by a head
Right.
of data, not by head of department. It's by C level. C level once distrust our data, your whole product is gone. Yeah,
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I just the output 95% accurate is 0% useful reminded me of a story of a project that we did. It was very early in my career, and I was um, not I was a technical resource on the business side. So there was a time where I worked on the business side for 2 or 3 years
mm-hmm.
within a business intelligence group, and we had we were replacing an old mainframe system with something that was built off of Oracle.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was for an insurance company, and the insurance company had about 1 million policies in force. So basically, a million policies for an entire country, and it was one of the biggest insurance companies in Canada at the time. And so we were doing testing before we officially released it because we knew that there was going to be a lot of a backlash, a lot of questions. And when you release something, a new data product into the world, it is it's the it's the black sheep of the family here. It's not, no one wants to deal with it because no one trusts it, and so you're going to get questioned. So my boss, who was AVP of Business Intelligence and Analytics, she said to me, "Okay, so what's the difference between the old system and the new system?" I said, "Well, it's about 800 policies. So 800 policies out of almost, say almost 1 million. Well, that's not a big percent, right? 0.8%." And she said, "Okay, I want to know I want to know the breakdown of those, say, 800 policies. I want to know why they're different." And I'm like, "Okay, sure." So I spent about a day, and I dug into two reasons why the new system was different than the old system. And when I understood the use cases and figured that out, it was in both cases the new system was more correct. And once I went to her with that, it was only then that she's like, "Okay, let's send this out," because this went out to 500 people across the country. And if you don't have your ducks in a row, you know from your projects that if you do not have your ducks in a row when something goes out to the business, you will get lambasted, you will get slaughtered if you are not, up to speed on knowing the data very, very well and being able to defend it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm 100% on the same page with you that yeah, yeah, you need to know what is happening under the hood. Yeah,
Awesome. So the next part is professionalism concerns. And so, as I said earlier, my background is business, specifically accounting for my undergraduate degree. And when we talk about accountants as a profession, there's this idea that you never take on a challenge that you're going to receive money for, but that you're not prepared for. So if someone says, "Can you do? I need you to do work from here," if it's not in your area of expertise, you
Hmm.
either have to call it out and say, "Look, I'm not ready for this," or say, "I can't take this on because I am not positive that I can do a professional job for you." And so when we go back to this idea of this AI chat bot, or sorry, the AI agent day trader, say, should creators be held responsible for foreseeable harm that results when people rely on their work? Like, if, for example, when someone's a day trader, if they're going through, I think a lot of day traders have transaction costs associated with it. But if your AI agent, the AI agent that he built, did not even take into account any kind of transaction costs. So if someone goes off and creates an AI agent, say they've got their life savings, what they've whatever, and then they lose all of their life savings because they followed what this supposed profitable agent AI agent day trader has done. Should they be responsible for it?
Yeah, I think I can
Yes.
add one more example. The other day, one of our data folk, Ahmed Fasi, has put
Mm-hmm.
example over there. It was later he told us that this is a dummy one, but it was a very valid example that few, I think, browsers are coming which are AI driven browser. And when it is
Mm-hmm.
AI driven browser nowadays, even in generic browsers, what we do, we save our passwords, right? And when we save
Yes.
our password, we give them permission to do something. So he put up
Yeah.
this example.
Yeah.
What if your AI agent save your password and pick up a click which says go ahead and it empties
Mm-hmm.
your bank account? What will happen? See,
Right.
so this
Right.
guy told me that, told onto his post that uh, I was not expecting these many likes and it went into 700 something likes and 700 comments
Yeah.
that people
Yeah.
suddenly jump into it. So there was, see, last time people were, as you mentioned correctly, right? Professionalism, right? We work for a
Mm-hmm.
company, we don't care. But the moment
Right.
it comes to our bank account, we are
Right.
very careful, then why not
Yes.
for the organization as well? And as you mentioned that, people should be even developer level or designer level or a vendor level should
Mm-hmm.
be held accountable that, hey, you are building agentic AI, for example, for us. Tomorrow, if something goes wrong, like $1 million or $10 million,
Mm-hmm.
you are going to be sued. The moment
Right.
that threat comes, I think the tables
Yeah.
will move, Maybe, yeah.
Yes. Sorry. Sorry. Please continue.
No, no, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, yeah, you have to put
Yeah.
some accountability on people who are proposing it and who are trying to do it. Yeah.
Right. And AI vibe coding is like, let's see what happens. Well, you may not like the answer to let's see what happens,
Yeah.
but you mentioned about emptying a bank account. There was something that I read a week or two ago about uh, somebody who had programmed an AI agent and given the AI agent the ability to execute arbitrary SQL within a database. And the situation that happened was that they gave them like DBA rights. So like whatever. So
Yeah.
the AI,
Well done.
you know where I'm going with this is
Yeah.
the A. All right, go ahead and say it. I'll let
See, amazing, right? Someone gives a DBA right to someone, even a human. It's a crime. Okay, please go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you.
no, but the result was that as a result of something happening, the AI agent thought it was best to drop the database, and they dropped it.
Yeah.
And then when that's talked back with the talk when it's talked back to the when it was when the user went back to AI and say, why did you do this? It said, yes, I admit I made a catastrophic mistake, but
Sorry.
again, this is it's like, yeah, sorry, really sorry. But no, but you laugh at it and you go, why? But this is, I mean, this is the kind of thing that can happen. And data professionals will say, your true professionals are going to say, look, I know what you're trying to do here, but it's not going to give you what you want. And, it's your money. Do what you want with it. But I would have issues if it were my business. I would have issues doing this because of the possibilities of what we could have happen here. And I think you've done this with your clients. I've done it with my clients. And if the clients go ahead and do it, then at least it's not okay. You want to do it simple. Go ahead, give them all the rights you want. You know, given that I've told you in writing that I have issues with what we're proposing for the following reasons, and and that's just part of professionalism. But that doesn't seem to be in the world of AI. It's like, let's disrupt everything. Maybe you don't like what disruption actually means in certain cases. That's well, I had one client where the DBA had given me like amazing rights, but not only the rights, but certain accounts have different priorities. I had a higher priority,
Hmm.
and we were in a design session with the project manager, and the project manager says, "Yeah, this field, it's a um, what are the, we had a disagreement as to what the field meant, and this is an important thing. So it was like, well, let's do a select distinct off of this field. So I did it, and then it came back eventually. But in the meantime, because my account that I had was such a high priority, I locked out everyone from this order system. So I brought down across 5 different time zones. I brought down an order system.
Oh shit.
Right, right, and it wasn't really my fault, and it wasn't doing anything terrible. But you know, basically after that, the account that we were using didn't have that much priority anymore. Anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And see, if this thing you give it to AI,
Hmm.
especially agentic AI, then
Hmm.
yeah, I think this governance thing is going to go on top. I personally feel it has to go on top if you want to
It
use
has to.
agentic AI.
Because, and I think one of the reasons why is that for governance, when it comes to people, your governance is about reducing ignorance. It's reducing what a bad actor can do, and also following best practices. But when we add in AI into the mix, I think that AI governance also has to take into account things like, hallucinations on the part of the AI, and just badly trained models. So it doesn't even have to hallucinate. It just has to be a badly trained model that
Yeah.
makes wrong guesses. So absolutely, AI governance is going to be a really big thing for sure.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
a lot of people are very confused in governance as well as we are talking about governance, right? I keep
Hmm.
telling people governance means govern. Governance does not mean you impose something new. Actually, last time why people hate governance people is that mostly governance people overstep from their jurisdiction, I would say. They end up
Hmm.
creating new things. Governance
Hmm.
is, for me, is all about regulatory body policies, audit policies, data quality policies, cybersecurity policies. You need to make sure
Hmm.
these are implemented. You should not be a showstopper. You should be
Yeah.
a person who should have a view that everybody is following. If they don't, raise an alert. That's it. But most of the
Hmm.
places I have seen that governance people step one step ahead and start stopping the processes.
Hmm.
Procurement is also one of the example, right? Procurement processes can be automated, but a lot of time, many minor things get delayed. New to bring a new tool into one organization, it takes
Hmm.
months and months to bring new
Hmm.
tools, right? That should not be the case because every nowadays new tools are coming into the market. If you are
Hmm.
unable to pick up the new tools for your use case, you are
Hmm.
missing hell of a technologies because who knows this new tool fulfill your requirement and goes away in 3 months or 6 months, a new tool will come.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
I hope I'm on the same page which you are talking about on governance.
Yeah. No, no, and I think that I I know that data governance, um, as as a as a discipline, has come a long way in the last 10 years.
Yeah,
Because I know that some of the data governance people that I worked with many years ago, um, some were, I think they were, you know how sometimes the original batch of a new group really represents uh, an old batch of a different group. So I think there's a certain personality who likes being the big fish in the small pond. So they've got a very small area, but they have total control over that area,
yeah.
and they love holding the power over them. I've seen a couple people over the years that have gotten into data governance that don't really understand what data governance is really about, but they like the idea that they get to make what the rules are,
Yeah,
right? And this is more getting into like personality here,
yeah,
but but I think that but that was I think that the governance professionals I've seen over the years have really stepped up, and I'm really pleased with a lot of the areas. Although for any company, there has to be you say there's this opposing forces of how do we innovate, yet how do we remain compliant? And I
yeah,
think that both areas that you need to have a, a system, um, whereby you have a system whereby you can still innovate but still remain compliant, because governance in a lot of cases is talking about regulatory compliance, and regulatory compliance is not something that, well, today's Tuesday, let's focus on regulatory compliance and then let's ignore it for the other days of the week.
yeah,
Um, but there are still ways that you talk about bringing in tools. Say companies. I've worked with a lot of regulatory companies, so banking, insurance, healthcare, and there's tons of other highly regulated industries out there. But in each case, they have high regulations, but there should always be a way, either internally or externally, that they're able to test out these tools using synthetic data, and that this is actually welcomed rather than stifled. But that's more of an innovation talk rather than, yeah, than necessarily. I guess it does deal with some of the pain points that data professionals have, but not necessarily with respect to AI.
yeah, yeah. Let me float one more idea here, and you can also comment
Absolutely.
on it and give your feedback. I
Yeah.
feel that now in data governance, the
Mm-hmm.
die requirement should be that person or a team has to have data background. Unfortunately, last time it was not, because end of the day,
Yeah.
what data governance was doing is to just making sure that, as we just mentioned, all other policies and standards given by other parties, governance need to govern that, right? But now,
Mm-hmm.
as technology is moving so fast that even regulatory policies will keep changing on the fly. When I say on
Yeah.
the fly, yeah, of course, very fast, not really on the fly. So the people who is governing, they need to understand
Mm-hmm.
what data product is. And I had a
Right.
session on data product that people around the globe, they are still
Mm-hmm.
confused what data product is. But for me,
Mm-hmm.
data product is very obvious. I wrote an
Mm-hmm.
article on it that we should not be talking on data product. What is data product? We should be talking about good, bad, and ugly of the data product, because
Mm-hmm.
car is a car. Now it's useless to
Right.
discuss what is a car, but you can discuss the
Mm-hmm.
model of the car, the type of the car. We should go into that direction. So
Mm-hmm.
I think in data governance, in future we need people who have a data background. So once this AI and data regulatory bodies keep swinging the ball, you should be able to
Mm-hmm.
catch and get it done in a timely manner. What do you think about that? Because this is one question I'm hearing everywhere.
I think, yeah, I think that I think uh, data management book of knowledge really helps with that because it gives just like the project management book of knowledge from PMI really helped to
Mm,
set the stage in different books of knowledge that have come out. A book of knowledge on data governance really helps to talk about when we talk about this. Let's level set. But I don't think that you can't have your data governance people have to be able to understand if let's put it this way if I'm if I'm the person who's in charge of innovation and me being in charge of innovation, I have to talk to if the data governance person with whom I'm speaking has had no background in data whatsoever. All they're looking to do is make sure that something that sounds like it could be dangerous gets kiboshed, even if it's helpful. But if you
yeah,
have someone who's actually done work in actual data work comes up, you have a much different scenario where the two of you together can can come up with real negotiated solutions that both fit the regulatory or not. But without that, it's like you're trying to push against a wall of ignorance. And here's another. I think another great example. If we just ignore AI altogether or governance altogether, I believe that the best solution architects are the ones that started in a development capacity. Because I've seen, on one hand, solution architects who come up with a solution diagram that can't possibly be coded, but they think it looks good on paper, and therefore that's the solution. Whereas someone who's come up from that says, "Well, yeah, I know what the book says on this, and I know what the theory is, but this is completely non-tenable in a real way, and this is what is tenable."
absolutely, absolutely. Actually, I have also come from data background and I'm also a solution architect, right? So,
Mhm.
I
I know.
understand where you are coming from, and being
Mhm.
on a customer side, when this thing comes, you already know, okay,
Mhm.
this is very difficult, but hey, if you tweak it in such a way, maybe on a temporary basis, it will
Mhm.
work, but in parallel, you can have a backlog and you can fix it later. So sometime what
Right.
happens, you need to go to production. So
Yep.
I hardly see any project goes 100% on time. There is
Mhm.
always bit and pieces left behind. But the people who really
Mhm.
understand the whole ecosystem, they will take a
Mhm.
decision. Hey, what can go into the production, what cannot go. So until unless you
Yep.
do not know. So let me add one more thing over here, which I am advocating nowadays, right? I'm saying that
Mhm.
there are three things I believe is very important to implement a solution.
Mhm.
People normally look into only solution design, which can be a proposal, which can be a HLD solution architecture. I feel
Mhm.
the lethal combination comes when with solution architecture,
Mhm.
implementation strategy also comes in. When I say
Mhm.
implementation strategy, which is kind of a project management plan that you need to know which modules can go in parallel, which has the
Mhm.
dependency, blah, blah, blah. So if you know the
Mhm.
solution architecture and you know the implementation strategy, I think
Mhm.
that is where you create value because traditional project manager will come, he or she will
Mhm.
take all WBS from the solution architect and they will create just simple, you know, sequence wise dependencies and the project goes 9 months. But if you have
Mhm.
walked the walk and if you end up creating the solution architect a solution implementation strategy, you can squeeze them, or you can maybe a module goes in within months or a 2 months or 3 months is a success. And the third, but not the last, which I really give. Actually, I was a victim of this, and I learned it after 20 years of experience that ground reality. Ah,
Mhm.
nowadays I'm giving big importance to the ground reality because if you
Mhm.
make a super
Mhm.
good car to run in Germany or maybe in Russia, and you bring that
Mhm.
car into a free car, you can create super cool car, but it's not going to work in Africa because ground reality is Africa is hot and Russia is
Mhm.
cold. So when you are designing a
Hmm.
solution, you need to know the ground reality as well, whether in-house teams infrastructure is ready or not, they have the
Hmm.
budget or not, they have the right teams or not, they have skill set. So a lot of ground realities comes. People who hasn't worked
Hmm.
on data warehousing, you go and tell them to implement data vault or focal or anchor, and you and
Hmm.
ask them to implement AI, of course they are going to
Hmm.
fail, right?
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, yeah. I just wanted to highlight into the podcast as well, right? Solution
Yeah.
architecture, implementation strategy, and ground reality. What do you think about that?
Hmm. So yeah, so just making notes as you were talking. So in one of the projects, I was on a multi-year transformation project, and one of Canada's biggest retailers, and we had we had we had it was a decommissioning or it was decommissioning an old IBM DB2 database and bringing it in, rewriting all of the source code to bring stuff into Netezza, which is a massive parallel
We are processing.
processing
Yeah.
database, um, and on premise. And so uh, we were we were dealing with we had a large team. When I say large team, it was 40 people, 20 offshore, 20 onshore, at the height of the project. And we had 10 projects going all at once. And our program manager, whom I reported to, um, you know, her and I would sit down and say, okay, so here's the pieces. We've got all of the tasks at a very, very low level. And she came from a coding background as well, very technical, very hands-on technical background. And you look at what are the what's our in the product world we say what's our MVP, what can we go in with now to at least get the main pain points taken care of, what can we do later, because you remember you got 40 people that you need to manage those resources, and you need to always be working, nobody can be sitting idle, so you're managing 10 work streams at a time. And I know in one year we finished 40 projects uh, in that year, some of which were as short as a week, or sorry, 2 or 3 weeks, some of which were as long as 9 months. But to your point about the trying to collapse timelines, that is absolutely possible to do. And instead of looking at, but you still need people to understand how
Yeah.
the tasks put together. And I think a lot of project managers come from a non-technical background. They say,
Yeah.
well, the only way we can do this is if we do tasks. You give me 10 tasks, here are the tasks 1 to 10. Can we do them all at once? No, probably not. Not we don't understand what these tasks are, so we don't want to take the risk. But
Yeah.
we'll deliver in 9 months as opposed to two.
Yeah.
Um, and as for your facts on the ground, this is absolutely necessary. These are you assumptions in a project, and risk management is something that a lot of a lot of projects don't do well. They assume that the risks will somehow, come back to them and say to them, oh yes, here's this risk is, oh, we've heard from someone else that this is a risk. You can't wait for risks to come out and announce themselves to you, because by the time they're announcing themselves to you, it's already too late to mitigate it. And to give you a quick example of that, I was on a project where I started with, you know, my direction was go figure out where you're useful, and I saw this program had a very reputable uh, consulting company had gone off and done the requirements documents, and I said, well, let me take a look at these requirements documents and their documents and design, and I saw there was this giant gaping hole in their design that they had no way of determining from a technical perspective what the business assets were. So they had gone back to the business, say, what business assets are you responsible for? But there was no translation back to the technical. And I said, wait a second, we're gonna to determine scope of it was a migration project of what we need to move, we need to have this put in technical terms. And if we don't have that, there's no possible way of saying that we've met any business requirement. or even that we've tested it. But these, there's that risk wasn't even surfaced, despite the fact there were, many eyes on it. But again, you need to have a risk management. I think a lot of good data professionals have that eye for the risk management to say what can go possibly go wrong here, and that's I think that's reflected in your reality on the ground. But without that almost cynical perspective on things, those things get missed, and then you find out projects fail because what should have been something that was known right from the beginning, failed drastically.
Yeah, absolutely. I can add one example into it and my
Mm-hmm,
perspective on risk and issues as well. And you are
mm-hmm,
absolutely dot on, right? Spot on that
mm-hmm,
what happens if you don't have a proper background, what happens? Maybe I will
mm-hmm,
say a little bit technical. A lot of people won't
mm-hmm,
understand that. If you don't have a proper background, even for risk and even for issues, you end up finding a solution rather than resolution. People
right.
confuse solution with the resolution. So
Mm-hmm,
if you have an issue, your short term fix is a solution, not a resolution. Right? People
right.
don't understand that. Resolution means get rid of the root cause. And when you say get rid
Mm-hmm,
of the root cause, you have to go back to the drawing board and you maybe have to change the whole ETL process. But when
mm-hmm,
issue comes, let's first discuss issues, right? When issue comes, what you do, you fix it. Issue means your
mm-hmm,
project is on hold, right? It has
mm-hmm,
already happened. Something has broken. Fix it.
yeah.
Now, people, what do they
Mm-hmm,
do? They solve the problem, they don't resolve it. I am fine
mm-hmm,
with that. But what happens once you solve it, you need to have a backlog to resolve it in future. And when you are saying that
mm-hmm,
you go into a production, everything going fine, suddenly breaks. Why? Reason being you solved a problem, you did not resolve it. Now what happens?
mm-hmm,
That solution which you gave just to solve that issue, fix that particular issue, but on related issues which were data was not there, now different kind of data came in production, it breaks again. You will people think, hey, we resolved this in UAT, but why when new data comes it failed? Because you resolve it, you solve it, you never resolve it, you solve it actually, right? So that is my one issue with issues, that you need to have a backlog for the resolution as well, for short, for long term. Now comes toward risk. Again, unfortunately, you have a risk. People do not have a correct background, come up with the solutions, not with the resolutions. I feel
mm-hmm,
the mitigation plan for risk should be resolution, not solution. So I think
mm-hmm.
I brought from that angle that people who do not understand, it can be any technology. If you do not understand in and out of a technology, you unfortunately end up doing a solutions rather than resolution. What do you think from this angle?
Yes, so you've got to sort of I've got in my weird way of thinking is
I hope
that
I haven't
if you
confused
if
you.
no, 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 not at all. In my weird way of thinking, I think to paraphrase what you said regarding, need a resolution, not a solution, is that if you have a ticking time bomb, the solution is to cut the wire that's going to stop the detonation, not to
Yeah,
cut a wire.
yeah,
So the solution could be to cut a wire, but the resolution is to cut the correct wire.
correct.
Um, but also with risk is that risk is something that has to be handled proactively. So you talk about, yeah, the number of issues. Sometimes the number of issues that appear, if we start managing and incenting people based on the number of issues that they've solved, right? It's it's that encourages people to have issues created. Whereas if you I don't know what the right answer is, but I think that well, I'd say that for the purposes of design, I think the right answer is that you have something earlier in your process as part of risk mitigation that where it's a code review or however it happens to say, here's the code that you've written, here is here is where the code can possibly fail, right? And fix those proactively. It's just like robust coding. And robust coding means that you're doing more coding. Yes, it also means that you're putting out there, but it's a much lower chance that there is an error, or if there is an error, that the error will be handled gracefully, right? So it's about robustness. It's about applying risk management to not just programming, but the way that we approach projects in general. I think that's important for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely, absolutely. Yep. Do you have more slides?
I
Yeah.
think so. Yes, other issues.
Other issues. Okay.
Um, yeah, these are my bucket things. So time limitations. So going back, what are we talking about here? Other issues as to why experienced data professionals shy away from AI. So, for many people in their pre-career or early career phase, time is relatively plentiful because they have no partner, no kids, and no jobs where you're working 40 hours a week plus. Um, but experienced data professionals often have spouses, children, and or work in excess of 40 hours per week,
Hmm.
depending on the projects they work on and their particular life situation. So it's not, you know, dedicating time to keeping up with something like AI is hard. And I know when I was doing it, I was spending a lot of time reading through and having to reread things because it's just stuff that I'd never encountered before. And yes, it expands your mind, and yes, it sucks up your personal time. And for a lot of AI professionals, they just don't see the cost benefit to it. And part of it comes from the next point, a perceived lack of need. So there'd be, one data professional I worked with said, look, if SQL gives me the right answer, why wouldn't I just automate that SQL rather than turn it over to AI, which can hallucinate and make mistakes? And my answer to that is that it's not just about automating SQL creation. There's a lot of other AI use cases that are out there, and that's we're not, I don't think that anyone is saying that AI is going to be used to automate SQL. There's a lot of other possibilities that it gives us, but if you're only thinking about one specific use case or something like that doesn't mean that AI has is going to or should replace whatever can be done easier exist can be done in existing ways right now anyway, unless it's to automate it to effectively automate something that takes a lot of time and is easy enough to automate.
Absolutely. Actually, this sequel thing is another thing which is happening in the world, and the MIT report which says generative AI 90-95% project got failed. I
Yeah.
think out of that 95%, 99% projects were where people tried to run generative AI on structured data. I keep
Mm-hmm.
telling people
Really.
on structured data is not going to work because structured data has problems because generative AI works on neural network concept, and neural network
Mm-hmm.
is ontologies, taxonomies, FCUIM, all those things need to be in place. That is how generative AI has been, trained. They trained onto neural network, right? Which is
Right.
kind of a
Right.
brain, right? But when you go into
Mm-hmm.
SQL World database, they don't have relationships over there. They have just
Right.
primary key, foreign key. That's it. And that is also hard coded in the DDL. The moment you pull out the data from SQL, which is tables,
Mm-hmm.
into a text format, which is LLM understand only
Mm-hmm.
text LLM won't know that employee ID 0178 is Mustafa, and Mustafa
Mm-hmm.
is from this department, and Mustafa
Mm-hmm.
has worked in multiple department. It has the slowly changing dimension. It won't know until unless you end up creating a huge metadata and give
Mm-hmm.
it to LLM. And the moment you give that to LLM, it becomes tokens become so expensive. The more tokens
Mm-hmm.
a single person use, actually I did some R&D and I did some calculations. One person use if 10% use 10 million tokens and
Mm-hmm.
one person use 10 million tokens, when one person use it is 100 times more expensive, same number of tokens.
Hmm.
So it's not about
Wow.
number of tokens, it's about how many people are using,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that gives you an idea. If you bring the metadata of everything and all data into LLM, you are not going to meet ROI, at least in current technology. So that
Interesting.
MIT report, I'm sure I haven't gone into detail. I'm sure
Right.
the most part would have been the failure part would have been trying to fetch the structured data into Gen AI to get the answer
Mhm.
out of it. So I agree with you. Actually, this question we asked to Bill actually. In one of the session, we
Yeah.
asked Bill, hey Bill, if we pull, by the way, Bill is working on a text analytics.
Yes,
So
yes, I took a look at I took a look at it because I think that the first part of it, like the first 20-30 minutes, you talked specifically with Bill, but I think you got to the point that you realize, look, you want to be able to, have him put out his product, and it needed to have a demo. So the
yeah,
last hour of it, I think, was the demo. Yes, and I watched it. No, that was
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I
No, no,
specifically
but it
asked
was.
him, I asked him,
Yeah,
Bill, that what if we, because he's working on text, he said, if
yeah.
I pull structured data, if I said, into your text, will your text analytics work?
Mm,
His
mm,
answer was very simple, and I looked really stupid that he said,
mm.
if you have already structured the data, why you want to unstructure it again? It's a very simple
Mm.
and wise
That-
thing, right? If you have
yeah, yes.
if you have put the books in a shelf properly aligned with alphabetical order, why the hell you
Mhm,
have to throw it again back onto the floor and ask
mhm.
someone just find the right book? It does not make sense.
Interesting. I probably missed that part, but no,
So that was
that's
a different
interesting.
session. That was a different
Yeah,
session.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. No, that's all right. Yes, no, that's interesting. I honestly didn't know that.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I think I always say that you can do analytics on unstructured, fair enough. You need to do real time. Some
Yep.
text is coming on the fly, you want to do, fair enough. But
Hmm.
once the moment is gone, if you need to go back to the same data, you better convert it into structure format. And that is what
Yep.
Build tool is doing. Build
Yep.
tool is converting unstructured data into a structure format
Hmm.
using the relevant taxonomies and ontologies. I think in his demo he showed that, I think healthcare use case he showed. So you
Hmm.
throw all healthcare files, it pick up based on the particular ontologies, it converts
Yep.
all text into a table. So the
Hmm.
moment you convert it into a structure, hey, we are
Hmm.
working on structured technologies for last 3 decades. Why the hell
Yeah.
we want to get rid of those super cool technologies where we are taking 100% decisions on? So why the hell
Right.
we want to get rid of those and
Hmm.
start building something new? Like you have a car, right? You say, I have a car. No, let's find something new to travel from here to there. No, you build two-wheeler, you build six-wheeler, you will 10 wheelers, fine. You make an airplane, fine. You have a boat, fine. But that is how
Hmm.
transportation works. Why you want to
Right.
find something new, right?
Right, right. This is why it says what is it that, and this is why I think this is where applicability of AI comes in,
Hmm.
is that why would you use AI when there's already something that exists and
Yeah.
it's already proven,
Proven, yes.
right? And but I think sometimes people try to, I guess they're trying to find a sweet spot that doesn't exist. So, example is a coworker who came up with this idea of pre-aggregating billions of rows in a table, and so he created this thing that would generate very quickly SQL statements at different levels of aggregation, run them, and put them into an external table. Now, the table was already billions, the source table was billions of rows to begin with, and he was creating many billions more. And so he created like about a million SQL queries and then started running them. and he got to about query number 6 before he brought down the server. But anyway, that's an aside story.
No,
Anyway,
these
yes.
stories are good stories. So at least our audience can hear real-time examples.
Mm-hmm,
That is how things are things are getting worse. I feel once quantum computing is there and
mm-hmm,
it becomes as cheap as we are having mobile and laptop in our hand, I
mm-hmm,
feel then there might be a, this is again my take, there
mm-hmm,
might be a way to get rid of structured databases, but again the ground reality is different. I will tell you what the ground reality is, but I feel
mm-hmm,
in my mind I foresee once quantum computing is there and you have
mm-hmm,
sufficient processing power, then
mm-hmm,
what happens? See, in data world, data goes in OLTP applications, which is operations, data goes out, which is OLAP
mm-hmm,
applications. It goes in,
mm-hmm,
it goes out. Right now,
mm-hmm.
goes in is a structured data in
Yep.
your SAP, in your ERP, in your finance, it's a structured data. Now, when it goes
Mm-hmm.
out, currently it is structure output. Now, people want this to be unstructured. It's not going to work. How it's going to work? I feel once this is going
Mm-hmm,
in, this become unstructured.
mm-hmm,
Means when you are registering a customer, you will only talk to a system. Hey, I have a customer, and you interview a customer. Customer verbalize everything, and everything got recorded as a text.
mm-hmm,
It never goes into rows and columns. And now you give it to ChatGPT or LLM. It may work, but it needs huge processing power. That's just must my take, right?
yeah. But here's the problem that I see with that is that at the end of the day, we still have we still have to be able to trace back. And
Yeah.
if quantum computing, if we require quantum computing to do a task, at a certain point in time, we have to say, is this task even worth doing? And the reason why I ask that is that if I if if I have, say, I'll give you an example. We decide that we want to have AI in government. Okay, so we're going to throw all the laws into it, all the court cases, assuming that you're using like the British style of or even Code Civil, whatever court system, legal system that you use. You throw all that data, and then you start throwing individual court cases at it, and then it comes back with, let's say, what's the verdict, guilty or innocent, and what's the penalty for this crime. If
Yeah.
it starts spitting out the answers and it can't explain where it came from, even though it came very, very quickly, and there's no way that quantum computing can justify its answer, then I'd say that's a dangerous technology, right? So it's not about
So
just
yeah,
can we
and
do
so,
it, is that
no,
should
no,
we?
absolutely. See again, when I say quantum computing, then what I'm going to do is when this
Mm-hmm,
unstructured data goes in, quantum computing is so heavy that it will create all metadata. It will have all indexes somewhere sitting there. So when
mm-hmm,
you try to refer it, he has this quantum computing has a backup sitting somewhere. So I'm not getting rid of
mm-hmm,
that. Metadata will not be there. Back tracing will not be there. History data, everything will be there. But for a front end user, it will be very easy. That's what I'm just throwing the
mm-hmm,
idea. It's decades. Where it'll take decades to do it, but there's a ground
mm-hmm.
reality. I always bring ground
Interesting.
reality. If
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
happens, all our multinational companies like Oracle, IBM,
Mm-hmm,
Teradata, who has spent billions of dollars or millions of dollars to create these solutions,
mm-hmm.
all are scrapped. So will they
Yeah.
allow this to happen? No, they will not.
Actually, I
They will
have
not.
I have an even worse fear, is that with cryptocurrencies,
Right.
can if quantum computing is able to crack the codes for, say, creating Bitcoin,
All
you
gone.
can you can de- right, right, and that's where my thinking on quantum computing always relies on it. Again, it's that cynical side of me, but I'm like, okay, so maybe if I use quantum computing, I can start mining Bitcoin just, as I cut little pieces of paper, and then I became a multi-trillionaire or whatever happens beyond that. And anyway, that
No, this is a great comment bringing Bitcoin thingy. So if you see most of our world at a passive income, they have jumped into Bitcoin currencies and many other technologies, right? They are
yeah.
there. Consider, let's assume tomorrow quantum computing comes. By the way, all these big giants are working on quantum computing. Microsoft has
Hmm.
come up with, and Chinese companies has come up with. There are two, three, what they call it. It starts with Q, qubits. They have come up with
Okay.
4 5 qubits, right?
Hmm.
Consider tomorrow there is quantum computing. Can you
Hmm.
believe billions of billions dollars in crypto will fall like anything? What
Right.
will
No
happen?
doubt.
What will happen? Recession will
Yeah.
come. So ground
Yeah.
reality, will people allow that? I don't think so.
Right.
That's the
Right.
ground
Exactly.
reality.
But you know what? Crashes happen. Crashes happen all the time. Not all the time, but crashes do happen.
Yeah,
So
whenever.
anyway,
Yeah.
so I wanted to move on to the ML data risk because machine learning projects have an inherent risk with them. It is
Hmm.
always possible that you might never get enough high quality data to train your model. And why is so what, right? And the thing is that for most data professionals, data projects, for me at least, it's been like I always know whether it can be successful or not because if you've got a feasible strategy and competence from both the business and the technical teams, I think projects can, and you've thought all the way through, figured out the risks, mitigated the risks to the degree possible, have all these things that you've done your due diligence. You can always be successful. But I always think of data professionals like drug sniffing dogs at the airport, and we need to be successful for our reputation. And a
Yeah.
lot of people are scared of like I'm scared of machine learning projects, even though I know that in machine learning projects you're going back to the client and saying, look, we have no guarantee. We should be going back to clients and saying, look, we're doing this based on our best guess, but it might not be enough. So you need to understand that we might not have a working tuned model available for you because of lack of high quality data to train your model, and that we have to call that out. But for me, that's almost like stepping into a world that I don't want to step in, right? I don't like that risk of being reliant on data that I haven't vetted, and I don't know what's enough because the model will tell the story, and I can't control that, and that somehow bothers me. I think others are bothered by that as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And then finally, I think the thing is a resistance to change, and so there's a certain I mean, I came through, as I said before, I came through the business side. So I don't come from a computer science or an engineering background. But I know that a lot of my coworkers come from a computer science or an engineering background. And the reason why it attracts these people is because you know, data can be complex, as you know, we've talked about in multiple times throughout this podcast. And because of the complexity and detailed perspective required, it's your computer science people and engineering people that are trained for these kind of complexity and details that get attracted to it or are required for it in a lot of cases. And I think that people who come from a computer science and engineering background have a certain personality that comes along with that. And for some of them, they can be very resistant to change. I don't know if you've seen that in your career, but that's what I've seen with a certain percentage that, say, whatever I'm doing, I know it's right because I've done this for a long time and I don't see the need to change. And I think
Absolutely.
that can be kind of dangerous.
Absolutely, there's a war going on. At least in my point of view, there's a war going on between software engineering versus data engineering as a practice.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Since this data products and federated approach comes into picture, because we were, just to refer for other, for audience as well, we were in centralized approach for decades. Now we are going into federated approach. When we are going into federated approach, rather than creating one enterprise warehouse, we will end up creating small data product, right? So when you say, yeah, people are reluctant, when you go into small data products, then you need to follow software engineering practices. Then there is nothing wrong into it. But again, my perspective is software engineering practices normally focus on operational solutions, which is OLTP applications. And mindset of creating an operational system is very different than mindset of creating a analytical report and analytical data product. It's a totally different thing. As I mentioned, data goes in, operation, data goes out is the analytics. So people who is creating this, they're working on a transactional system. People who are working on this, they are they are reporting, they are working on a huge data, different mindset. So I think
Yeah.
in my circle, this war is happening, that software engineering says data is just data. We don't care
Mhm.
about data. It should follow everything what software engineering do. I say no. Yes, we should pick up the good practices of software engineering like DevOps, like CI/CD. All these we should follow that. We should pick, but you
Mhm.
cannot get rid of, for example, data modeling. Software engineers normally say data modeling, you don't need data modeling. You simply create a query on source data, bring 10, 15 tables, create a query, and give an output, finished. I said,
Yeah.
no, cannot be finished, because in future, where is your lineage? Where is your
Mhm.
data quality? Where is your metadata? Where is your regulatory requirement? Everything you have to find out. Right? In agentic AI, what happens? In agentic AI will come, it will create the data products on the fly, and
Mhm.
it will scrap the data product in the same one process. So the thing is, data
Mhm.
product comes, data product goes away. Now, if you don't have a proper lineage over there, or a metadata, or a proper data modeling down there, which will tell you that 1 plus 1 was 2, if you don't
Mhm.
track that, or if you don't end up storing it in the right layer, then tomorrow when audit comes, you are gone. Especially in
Mhm.
banking and telco, these big domains, you are going to get penalized millions of millions dollar. So I think when
Yeah.
you say people don't change their mind, they are resistance to change. I
Mhm.
agree with you, and I'm seeing that. Actually, I have a panel discussion next week, next
Mhm.
month. By the way, I also do panel discussion. I think you might have seen every quarter I
Yes.
do
Yes.
panel discussions where I bring this generic topics. Now I'm thinking bring this software engineering versus data engineering practice in my next panel discussion. Maybe I can invite you as well if your calendar allows.
Sure.
Just join
Yeah.
us. We can talk on that. So on this slide, I absolutely agree with you.
Mhm.
People should accept the change,
Mhm.
considering foundations are still intact. I would say that, yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Just on the the war of the worlds, if you want to talk about software engineering and data. I'm trying to here I am, like, if anyone see me looking down, it's like, what is he doing? He's checking his phone. No, I'm like drawing a little Venn diagram. Like, so what is okay? So there's stuff that's in common between the two. Well, so what does software have that data doesn't have? Usually it's dealing with very simplistic structures. So here's a screen that I have, and that screen, so I may create an application when it relates to data. So data is, oh, I'm going to pull some data from this table, make some changes to it, or put it in, or I'm going to write something that creates a trigger to pull this when I do this, yada yada yada. So it's their work with data is very transactional, and it has a life cycle that is very very short. Whereas in the data world, we look at, as you say, if you're looking at years and years of data for analytics, you can't you can't take a a simply a software engineering approach. And I've seen a lot of projects that have gone way over budget because the project manager for the data project has never done a data project before, and they start hearing about things that, say you've got I had a project manager who had 10 years experience, and I start bringing stuff in saying, look, we need to do this, we need to do this, and she's like, look, I don't know what you're talking about. We've never had to do this on any of my projects I've done before. So I don't understand why we have to do it. And then this is the education part as professionals. We have to go back and say, look, we're doing this, and the project that you worked on never had to do that before. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. And it's not the mechanics of bringing out a number from the database. The hard part that we need to worry about is making sure it's the correct number, and that the way that we've corrected that number goes down a whole path that, just like AI doesn't have to concern itself with the machinations of data transformations, software engineering also doesn't need to worry about the machinations of data. And I think that's where, you know data versus something else is even a more generic topic, but it goes down to what are the things that we as data professionals have to do that other areas don't worry about, and this is why we have to be involved, and we still have to be involved, and you can't hand that off to AI or any other discipline or any other method, because over the course of many years we've honed our crafts on to what works and what doesn't.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm on all for it. What you're mentioning over here, yeah.
Awesome. I think I'm at the end here. Yeah. So this is the end. This is my contact information.
Yeah.
For anyone seeing if they can scan it. I my
No, I think it was a great discussion. Again, thank you so
Great.
much for giving your time, and it was lovely talking to you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be here.
It was a pleasure.
Take
Have
care.
a nice day. Take care.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
You too. Thanks. Bye bye.